I have with me today, not the eve, but right before the 4th of July, one of my friends and military heroes, Eddy Waller. I had to ask Mr. Eddy to share his story because he and his family have been so instrumental to me, and he was the first person I thought of regarding the 4th of July and military service and service overseas. First, I just wanted to say the reason that I'm doing these stories is based on really Psalms 105, verse 1 through 5. Give thanks to the Lord, call on his name, make known his accomplishments among the nations, sing to him, make music to him, tell about his miraculous deeds, boast about his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Seek the Lord in the strength he gives. Seek his presence continually. Remember the miraculous deeds he performed, his mighty acts, and his judgments he decreed. So, Eddy, I just want to introduce you. Can you tell me about where you grew up and life growing up?
Yeah. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, still live in Jackson, Mississippi, and I was one of 5 children, Bill and Carol Waller. We had a home where we had love, we had Christian parents, and we went to church every Sunday and Wednesday and Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. So we were there. So and I praise the Lord for that kind of upbringing.
That's right. And of course, he won't say, but I'll say he's the son of Governor Bill Waller, who was governor in
1972 to 76.
All right. And very loved governor of Mississippi. So we'll talk about that. But how many children in your family?
So there were 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl.
Okay. And what was it? What age, I guess, did you come to salvation? Obviously, you grew up in the church.
Right. So I walked the aisle and officially at age 9 at First Baptist Church, Jackson. Dr. Hudgens was the pastor and everything. So that's when I made my profession of faith.
And what was life growing up like in your household?
Well, it was, of course, it was 5 kids. It was never a dull moment. Lots of kids, and like I said, we piled in the station wagon and came to church. But we did, we all played sports. We all Boy Scouts and everything, and had a blessed growing up and everything. But
and you went to school. You told me the string of schools.
yeah. So I started off. Actually, I didn't tell you this part of it, but went to Span in elementary school, and then the big court ruling and integration happened. I got moved to Casey to finish out the year, and then I went to Jackson Academy from the 4th to 9th grade, and went to prep in the 10th grade, and transferred to Murrah and graduated from Murrah.
From Murrah High School.
In 1979.
All right. And growing up at First Baptist, you said every Wednesday, every Sunday you were there, and obviously a lot of good teachers growing up through the years. Yeah. But you described your Christian walk as a marathon.
I did, and of course I teach 7th grade boys now. I told I told parents that make them go to church. It's boring, they don't like youth ministry, what have you, they go anyway, because each year they go, every class and everything they participate in is a little touch along this journey to running the good race that Paul talked about, and so I felt like I didn't know it then, but I know that I got a little touch, influence, people that are still at the church now that taught me Sunday school. When I got to Ole Miss on my own, making my own decisions, sleeping in Sundays is what I look forward to. And that Holy Spirit just reached down and grabbed me. There was just something wrong about that. Something that pulled me back into church, and my grandparents are up there out in the country, so I started going to church with them again. So it's, and the great thing about our faith is that it's never boring. You're always going to learn more, and I think that's why, you take your time, because God's going to teach you along the way.
So what was it like being the son of a governor?
Son of a governor, yeah. Well, it's the interesting thing about it, and I think it was a blessing, you know, now, but when Dad got elected governor, the Mississippi Governor's Mansion had been condemned and needed either to be torn down or renovated. So, born and raised in Jackson, when he got inaugurated, we just went back to our house, same house I grew up in, went to the same schools, even had the same carpool. So really, life didn't change much for us, except that, you know, Dad was gone a lot, and actually that mother had Rose as the first lady, very busy. So we had in our carpool the plainclothes security that stayed at the house drove carpool. And it's in line at Jackson Academy or whatever. Carpool.
Secret Service carpool.
Yeah, they had an unmarked highway patrol car, but my friends loved riding in the car when they drove on that day because we went fast. And I thought it was because they had a souped up car, but they probably wanted to get rid of us and get back to their job.
Right. They didn't want that duty.
No, they didn't want that duty. But anyway, actually we did. We made really lifelong friends with all the security like that.
That's great. And so really, for a while, while they were renovating the mansion, your mother was instrumental in that, by the way.
She was, because there was only legislature wanted to, downtown was hopping then, so they wanted to tear the governor's mansion down and develop the property. Something else and sell it, and she and Charlotte Capers and some others spearheaded the move to save the governor's mansion. She got a lot of credit for saving the governor's mansion. So
beautiful, historic, yeah.
Beautiful. It's the second oldest mansion in the country in continuous use.
Wow, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at first you were just, Dad's going to work, and I'm still at my same home. And,
yep.
But you did get 9 months in the renovated.
We did get 9 months to break that baby in, so we didn't tear it up too bad. So yeah, we did get to live in it.
And while I didn't know Governor Waller personally, I tell the story because my husband, in his upbringing, his mom was a single mom and didn't have a lot of money, and he was the youngest of 6, and gosh, they had lights turned off, power turned off all the time, and I always heard, dating him from a young age, about Governor Waller helping Joel's mom, Nancy, and the stories that he just gave of himself to her financially and legally, and I know she wasn't the only one. He was a very giving man. He took his role in law that way, right?
He did. He enjoyed helping people. His greatest pleasure in the law practice was being able to help somebody.
Now, did he encourage you to go to law school?
He did not. He didn't encourage any. Bill and Bob went to law school. I got as close as taking the LSAT and walked out of that test and said, I'm not going back to school. So that's as close as I got. He wanted us to have the, you know, to understand that really any job is hard, you know, that you got to work at it. And law school was very difficult, number one, and that you really had to have a passion for the law. And, you know, he liked the best, but the best part was you did get to help people, and that's very rewarding. So he let us make our own minds up. So.
And what was your mind? What did you decide to do with your life?
What he recommended to do, and that was to go into the oil and gas business. Went to work for a friend of his doing land work. In other words, buying the oil and gas leases and researching mineral titles, things like that.
And you still do that?
Still do that. I do that for Regions Bank in the trust department, managing oil and gas properties.
All right. But I've asked him, Mr. Eddy, to bring his military stuff.
Paraphernalia. Okay.
Flags, because military was a big part of your life. And,
that's right.
You found this cute girl at First Baptist.
I sure did.
Right as you were entering the military, right?
Well, about the time Desert Storm rolled around.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'd been in 4 years by that time. So, yep, in the Mississippi Army National Guard.
Okay. So, how did you meet Betty?
Met her in Sunday school, in the single adult Sunday school ministry at First Baptist
That's a
Church.
great connection, huh?
Great connection, because all 3 of my brothers met their wives there, and Mom and Dad met at First Baptist Church too.
Wow, that's great. And tell the story about you meet her, you're getting serious, and then you get called to Desert Storm.
Yeah, we got serious, and that was would have been I guess the fall of 1990, and so I got in 1986 in the National Guard, and so just getting up the courage, thinking this is the one, and then we get called up to mobilize for that, and so and we of course we didn't deploy overseas, but we did stay on active duty for 6 months.
You were sent to Fort Hood.
Fort Hood, Texas, yeah, to do our train up to deploy overseas, and of course the war was over, and we did our train up, and we did a validation exercise at Fort Irwin, California, and then we came on back to Camp Shelby.
And so you had to get a little help with the diamond
I
ring.
did. I couldn't find one, didn't have time to find one, so I got my dad and brother involved, and they talked to a jewelry store, and a friend of his in the jewelry business, and so I described what I wanted and what was in my budget, and they got it for me, and I said, this will work.
And you had 1 weekend.
Had 3-day pass, went home, so.
And she said yes.
She said yes.
And then you had 2 daughters now.
I have 2 daughters, grown daughters, I do. Emma Carroll is an occupational therapist. She lives in Birmingham, and Danny's actually a youth associate going to work for First Baptist Church of Tupelo.
That's great. That's great. So, how did you decide to join the military? What influenced you?
Well, it was just growing up. I loved the military. I enjoyed Boy Scouts. Loved Army movies. Loved hearing about veteran stories. Telling about what they did in service and everything. And, like I told you before, I never heard of ROTC. My oldest brother went to Mississippi State and got an ROTC. All I knew was he had cool Army stuff. And he'd come home, and I said, I'm gonna do that when I go to college. So
that was
Bill
Waller, right?
Yeah, that's right, Bill Waller Jr. That's exactly right. So yeah, I mean, he inspired me about as much as we're finding out about it as anybody. So.
And so then ROTC just naturally led to join
Right,
the
you get,
Army.
you, actually, I finished my ROTC program before I got my degree. And so, it took me a little while longer to get my degree, and, once I had my degree, Bill said I could still get my commission to have my degree in ROTC, so I enlisted and got my appointment to second lieutenant in the National Guard.
So can you talk about, I guess you always know that you could be called to active duty, but twice you were deployed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about what was that?
Yeah. Well, it was, of course, I always say I was mobilized 3 times and deployed twice. So we were called active duty that first time for Desert Storm, and then I'll tell you the story is the terrorist attack on 911 evolved, and that we went into Afghanistan first, and then Iraq, and then they were steadily sending brigades and mobilizing National Guard units and deploying them overseas. And I remember I'd been to drill in January 2004, and came home, and I told Bay, I said, looks like we're going. I don't know when, but we're going to be going to Iraq at some point. And I said, I need, I need to know if you're good with it, because if you say I can't go, or I can't do it without you, then this is when I need to get out. Go ahead and resign and get out. She said, nope, this is what you do. I knew that when we got married, and so you go ahead and do what you want to do.
I think that's important too, because just like anything you do in life,
Yes.
you're called in marriage as a couple.
Yes.
Whether it's ministry, pastor and his wife, or even a secular job, or even especially military. Like, for her to stand, that had to be really awesome for her to stand behind you, because she knew that's what you wanted to do. I'm sure.
Right. It would have been worse for me not to go.
Why is that? You were telling me about that. It's just in you, right?
Well, I think it's in anybody that puts on a uniform, and anybody that finds a way not to go, and it might be physical or something, I think they regret it forever, because you see your comrades, your fellow soldiers train up, deploy. Some of them don't come back. most of them do, when they come back, and it's just a different person. They're fired up about the country, you know, and they went and served, and you're like, man, I could have done that. And had the chance. But yeah, it was no way I was. She knew that. She knew there's no way I couldn't go.
So you told me that she deserves her military
Oh
retirement.
yes, every dime of it. Cause she
was the woman behind the man.
yes.
Right?
So that was when I guess when we were engaged, I was mobilized, and then if you put everything together, well, if you just put the mobilization and deployments, it's 3 years. The two I did.
Away
and then,
from her.
right, and then you take away the annual 3-week annual training periods
It's
and
even
weekends and so on and so forth.
And tell about that night before you left with your 3 girls. They and your daughters were 8 and you said 8 and
10, I believe. Yeah. That was when for Iraq. We were at Camp Shelby. We had a send off that day. Had lots of family there, and we spent the day together and everything. And so they wanted to stay with me as long as they could. And I did have a room, had all my gear packed, and had already staged the heavy stuff, and had to be palletized. And so, you know, it's always going to be dark till early in the morning when you meet up the military to leave. And so they were parked outside our rooms where officers had stayed and everything. And we played cards and my room and everything, and then finally just tried to lay down for a little bit, and it was probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, y'all gonna need to leave, because they're gonna close the roads down for PT here in a little bit. And so I walked them out to the car. Everybody was fine until that youngest one started crying. She started bawling, and so I had to hug her, and then Carol was crying, and I said, y'all be good for mama, and went around and kissed and bade goodbye, and their hot tears just rolling down on my face and cheeks. It just, it was like a punch in the gut or something. You just like, I just hated leaving them, you know, just hard, but it's part of being loved, you know, being missed. So.
Absolutely. And then you don't, the unknown, they're just wanting you to come back safely, and then you did it again for Afghanistan. And that was 2010 and 11, you said.
It was.
And your title, or talk about what your title was, what you did in Afghanistan.
Well, in Afghanistan, it was, we had a logistics headquarters, 248 people plus or minus, and I was chief of operations. So we had a tactical operations center where we command and control the logistics all in Afghanistan, and I was the chief of operations for that. So.
And did you, when you describe Kuwait and Afghanistan as compared to America, what was it like?
Well, it was Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh,
but we did, every time I deployed, we went through Kuwait. Yeah, we went through Kuwait, right. But you know what I said when I got to Iraq and got the lay of the land and got to see some schools and stuff, I said, well, Iraq's about 50 years behind us, but they've got some modern things about them too. They're up to date. And then so that was 4 years later. I went to Afghanistan, and I went, Lord, they're 100 years behind us. You know, and one example is Iraq will the girls do go to school, the boys up through elementary, and then in middle school they go separate ways through high school. And in Afghanistan, we had a school close by too. No girls. No girls. We had to take school supplies out there. No girls to be seen, so they didn't educate girls.
Do they even read? No.
I'm sure they are. And of course we were in Kandahar, Afghanistan, which is to the west on the border of the desert. And so it was just one school that I saw. But I know in the capital, in Kabul and stuff, they had educated women there. But just where I was, it was something else, you know.
So what do you learn, or what makes you patriotic after serving? Or even more patriotic, I would say.
You know, I told you that. I'll tell anybody that if you go serve in the military for your country, and you're just doing your part, just that little bit, just everybody coming together and everybody doing their job. To go overseas and deploy in the name of your country and to protect your country, you just never look at the flag the same again. You just know you done your job, done your part, and you're just proud of your country. Just proud I got to serve my country. And you know, I've seen how Iraqis live, and I've seen how they live in Afghanistan, and we just have the greatest country in the world.
Why?
No question.
Why do we have the greatest country?
Because we're free. We're free to choose God, free not to choose God, and our country allows our people to succeed. We're allowed to fail or succeed. Our country, so.
So what do you tell young people, or what would you tell people about military service?
Usually it'll be somebody asking about, tell me they're thinking about it. You know, well, I'm thinking about joining the Guard, I'm thinking about going in the Army, but I might go to grad school or something. So I say, if you even got the inkling that you want to join the military, do it. Do it, because you're just getting out of college, or you're just getting out of high school. You don't have a wife and kids, or a husband and kids, and you don't have a house note or a car note you have to pay for. It's just you. You can go do the military in 4 years. It may be the career you want to do, may not be for you. Then you have not lost that much out of your life. You've trained, you've served your country, you've done all great things, and you go do something else. But if you wait and you get a family and you decide later, it just gets harder to do. It's a lot more responsibility. So, I encourage anybody that's thinking about it. You can't go wrong. You just won't go wrong. It's time that's well served.
You've learned a lot.
Oh yes, ma'am.
Through the years.
So, I've learned how to get through being miserable, and that if everybody's miserable together, it's easier to get through stuff. So, but then, you know, some of the great things we've been able to do, you know, in the military, and learning to work together with folks, and learning just life lessons, making lifelong friends, being able to trust people, and making sure that people can trust me too, to do what I'm supposed to do. So.
Are you proud of your country?
Oh yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I still am. We have a lot of issues. A lot of families have issues, but we have issues. But this is still the greatest country in the world, without a doubt. God has blessed us, no question about it.
Well, we talked about hard times on the military fields, but you said there was another time that was the most difficult time.
Most difficult time in my life. It's when my sister Joy committed suicide, and she had battled depression quite a while. When I say a while, you know, say 5-6 years, maybe something like that. Didn't really always know how bad it was or how long she'd been doing it as a teenager, you know. But I was a sophomore at Ole Miss, and she had been working in New York for a while at Brooklyn Academy of Music. She was a graphic designer and everything, and she decided she wanted to come home, so she got a job at the art department on the university side, not teaching, but doing university graphics for Ole Miss. And that's our Waller home, and my grandparents are there and everything, and cousins and everything. And I'd actually gone into Oxford to do something, I can't remember. And I was heading to class and went by her apartment, saw her car about mid-morning, and I said, "Oh, Joy must be sick or something. She's not going. So I need to go check on her." I said, "But I'm going to be late for class." So thank God I didn't go. The Lord said, "You're late for class. Head on," or I would have been the one that found her. And then going back to my dorm room later that morning, you know, I can't remember if it was morning or afternoon, and one of the associates of my aunt that ran the funeral home called me and said her sister passed away, and so I jumped in my car, went to her apartment, and here's my aunt and the ambulance and police and everything. They just grabbed me, I tried to run up to her room. Anyway, they said, "Stay here." She's gone. So, very difficult time.
And so many people that deal with this grapple with the why. The why does it happen? I think you carry it through to your Sunday school, your 7th grade boys and youth, very involved teaching at church. But When you talk to people about this story, what do you say? How do you deal with something this bad?
Well, it's your faith. I mean, this is when you turn to God and other people, and you know, we weren't meant to go it alone either. We have to, you know, rely on each other. And if somebody is, if we see somebody we think is suicidal or something, we got to get them help, whether they get mad at us or not. And you know, just you don't get over this. You deal with it, and you deal with it with your faith, and God has a way of healing your heart and getting you through it. No question about it.
It has repercussions for forever, right?
Forever. It's as I told you, watching my parents suffer mourn was probably the hardest thing in my life I've ever seen. You know, that was probably first. You know, it's actually losing her and then watching your parents suffer through that. And you know, I tell the boys, there's another day. You know, you just gotta go, and that's kind of been my talk. You know, just one day at a time. Just you think this is it, I can't go. You go the next day and just
The
see
marathon.
The marathon. That's exactly right.
That's right.
You help.
So, will you share your verses that are most meaningful to you right now?
Oh yeah. We talked about that. Yeah, we did right now.
We
And
do go through phases, don't we? Of
we
favorite
do.
scripture.
We do. I got several, but the one I'm doing now just is very, very meaningful right now to me. And so.
And you said military. It's a good actually for.
This
military.
is good for military. It's really good
for everyone.
Whatever stage of life you're in. And this is 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18. And Meredith and I were talking about this, and it just starts off, be joyful always. Just doesn't say to, you know, just be joyful. And you can do that. You can turn around. And then it says to pray continually. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We should be praying continually. And then, you know, most important, I'll give thanks in all circumstances. For this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. And no matter how bad, you know, you've got to give thanks. Just losing a loved one, or you're deployed overseas from your loved ones, just give thanks for the situation you're in. Amen.
That's a good mantra.
It is.
Well, thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
I should salute you, but I'm afraid I wouldn't do it right.
Right.
And happy 4th of July.